under the direction of Minister Tyrone Richardson, further accompanied by Chris Garland. Right now, brothers and sisters, I want you to get on your feet. If you're at home, I want you to put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. 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 Fist bump the person next to you. Tell them you love them. To a certain city to do a rally with Martin Luther King III. And as we circled the city, as they were preparing to land, I looked out and I looked at Martin sitting next to me and I said, you know, Martin, it's a funny thing. Your mother talks to us about how your father went to jail so many times and how they bombed his house when they were boycotting the buses in Montgomery, and how they indicted him for stealing money that he didn't steal from the Montgomery Civil Rights Movement, that he was acquitted, and how they called him all kinds of names. I said, and I'm thinking about how, do you realize that Monday is a federal holiday? And the courthouse they dragged your father up will be closed. And the judge can't come to work. And the bailiff is closed. The school that he couldn't attend in Atlanta because he was black, all the schools in Atlanta be closed on Monday. Even though he never saw his 40th birthday, he stood for something. And if you're faithful over a few things, God will make you ruler over many things. He went from Martin Luther King, the defendant, to Martin Luther King, the national holiday. If you hold on, your change will come. Your change will come. Your change Dr. King used to say that the darkest part of night, the darkest moment of night, the darkest minute of night is right before dawn. Right bore sunbreak is the darkest moment. So even if you're listening to me on Radio Land or watching me, even if you're going through something, the darkest point you go through is right before you get your breakthrough. So don't give up. Don't give out. If you just hold on through the darkness of the night, sunlight is on the way and your change will come. Your change will come. Your change will come. Oh, yes, it will. Your change will come. Your change will come. Oh, your change will National Action Network Change Ensemble, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. And for you that are here live at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the Village of Harlem. For you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and you that are watching us on various platforms, we are happy to be with you another Saturday to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. Our Minister of Music, Minister Tyrone Richardson. And I'll give the drummer some. It's so cold. I had to, you know, they got this new thing at the airports where you can join what they call it, where they look at your eyes and your eyes get clear. I had to get a clear machine out and make sure that was Garland. He says it's too cold to be out here like this. You ever had Chris Garland out drummer? Certainly our inspirational speaker, give Reverend Starkey a big hand. Certainly we're happy today is the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On Monday will be the holiday. And every year we do the public forum here, and everybody from Senator Schumer. Let's welcome our Impact Television family join us live at 1:30 on Monday. Senator Schumer, Governor Hochul, State Attorney General Tish James, the Mayor Eric Adams, everybody will be here to give their public policy statement. But we're going to socially distance, so get here early. Because once we have set up the distancing, you will not get in here. We're not going to be unmindful. They talk about the numbers are going down. They ain't going back up in the House of Justice. And I didn't have to tell you all today to be careful because the hawk got you this morning. I was telling my friend, the borough president, you're going to hear from in a minute, that I don't know if I'd have come to the rally today as cold as it is and could have heard on the radio. So these are the true troopers here. And y'all are filled up in here. Give yourselves a big hand. Talk about troopers, here comes Ma Hazel Dukes is in the house. Come on up. the president of the New York State chapters of the NAACP, Hazel N. Duke. Glad to see her. Let me say, first of all, that we are absolutely joining many around the country and the world in mourning the passing of my dear friend and brother, James M. Toomey. Many of us have gone through losses in life, but sometimes things hit you harder than others. And when they called me last week and told me M. Toomey was gone, it really hit me hard. We went through many years together and struggled together. I remember when I went to speak at the Democratic Convention, run for president, he went with me. And we've been through many things together. He was one of the most prolific artists. A lot of people didn't know that. A lot of you knew him from Kiss Radio in New York. But before that, he was one of the biggest performers. Had a hit called Juicy Fruit. A lot of y'all listen to Juicy Fruit. Y'all ain't been listening. Y'all ain't been listening to gospel all your life. Y'all know more than Amazing Grace. So certainly we join in mourning his passing, but celebrating his life. And I wanted to give a few minutes, and certainly then yesterday we funeralized Street Doctor in Newark. I went and spoke at the funeral. Also loss of Rosemary Bass, Kathy's sister. They funeralized this week. And Dr. Maxwell, the Maxwell's daughter? Oh, wow. I did not even know that. So we are certainly mourning all of those passing. When I got to Los Angeles, I left after my MSNBC show Sunday, and the city was gripped with the disaster in the Bronx, where this building burned down and caused all of these deaths. And I went to speak to do the eulogy at the funeral of this young 14-year-old girl, Valentina Pinato, who was in a department store changing, trying on a dress for Christmas. And a man went in the store, was going crazy, they feel mental issues. Police came in, the man was unarmed. The police started shooting, and one of the bullets ricocheted and went through the door of the dressing room and killed that 14-year-old girl in her mother's arms. And they got Ben Crump to be the lawyer, and they are from Chile. And they said the only thing they wanted was, would I come and do the eulogy? And I flew out there and did the eulogy and thought about this fire in the Bronx and all of our people. And I told Derek Perkison, I said, rather than our guessing what to do and how to do it, and having people subjected to scams, and I hope people listening on radio and watching around the country, I wanted the boss of the Bronx to come and tell us what to do and how to deal with it. And we got us for y'all that watching around the country, we got us a boss lady in New York, in the Bronx, who takes care of business and has been at the House of Justice many times, but comes now as leading her borough through this tragedy. And she's only had to deal with this the second week on the job. But she was made for such a time as this. Let's hear from the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, House of Justice. I give all honor to God, who is truly the head of my life. It is only through his grace and mercy that I can stand before you today, proclaiming that he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I am grateful to join you on this Saturday at your Saturday rally, and I want to thank Reverend Al Sharpton and the National Action Network, to Attorney Michael Hardy, to all of our ministers, and to the entire Ministry of Music, to Mother Gwen Carr, to Mother Hazel Dukes, to my friend Derek Perkinson, and certainly my sister, Sister Dominique, and to each and every one of you, my Father's children. To God be all the glory. We are grateful that God woke us up this morning. There is so much death around us. Every time you turn around, you're hearing about the loss of someone else. But I am here on this Saturday morning to remind you that we serve an amazing God. Let me tell you about the God I serve, the God of comfort, the God of compassion, a God of healing, a God of strength, a God of wisdom. I am just so thankful to God because I don't know how I would have made it through this week. I bring you greetings from your friends in the borough of the Bronx as your new Bronx Borough President. Thank you to those who are here, to those who are listening, and those that are watching. I am so grateful to be the Bronx Borough President for such a time as this. Making history in the Bronx as the first ever African American and female elected Bronx Borough President. You can't tell me that God ain't good. This has always been God's plan to elevate us to this incredible position. And only in my second week, I never imagined that my beloved borough would face this horrific five-alarm fire on last Sunday. Residents woke to hearing the sounds of children crying, people screaming, 911 calls coming in. There were some of our folks that were at church, saw on Citizens app their building was on fire. And we now understand, a third-floor apartment, it started from a faulty space heater. We know many families in our city use space heaters because they're not given sufficient heat. And so we need to talk about the issues of why families are not given sufficient heat, why we may have self-closing doors that just don't close, why we have fire alarm systems that don't work, sprinkler systems that don't exist, 311 calls that go unanswered. This is not an issue that is just relative to Twin Parks, but this is all over the city of New York. And there is an underlying reason. For 30 years, the most horrific fires in this city have occurred in the Bronx, from Happy Land to High Bridge to Belmont and now here at Fordham. And let me tell you, family, all of the victims are working class people. They're immigrants, predominantly from parts of West Africa, Latino communities, and African American. And all they want is affordable and quality and safe housing. But for so many of us, we have seen decades of systemic racism, of government failure, and landlord neglect. We have to call this for what it is. It is very, very important for all of us to understand that in this time of pain, we will find purpose and we will find a plan. There is a learning lesson in one of these tragedies, and I will not allow the deaths of our neighbors to be in vain. 17 neighbors, family, 9 adults and 8 children, the youngest being a 2-year-old baby. I want you to pray for these families. They will never be the same again. But we are showing these families that the world is watching, and we are mourning with them during this profound loss. There has been an overwhelming amount of love and support, donations that have come in, millions of dollars that we've raised through the Mayor's Fund and other sources, and we are asking for your continued support. Financial contributions is what we need so our families can rebuild, so they can heal. They are traumatized. They need counseling and social services to deal with mental health, because guess what? They can't return to that building because they watched their neighbors escape for their lives, and many families were trapped in the stairwell from the 19th floor all the way down to the lobby. And so it has been a tough week, but I remind all of you that we are here for a reason. God has not given up on us. and we have work to do. As the Bronx Borough President, we are going to lead our borough with compassion and consistency and dedication and making sure we have a plan. We are going to learn from this tragedy and not wait for the next tragedy. We're going to develop policies and procedures and hold landlords and agencies from HUD to the state to the city agencies accountable. We want inspections that mean something. We want better window installations. We want proper heat in our apartments so families are not forced to use space heaters. Families use space heaters for a reason, and I would never fault a family for doing what is necessary to protect their children. We are a people of survival, and I remember growing up when we didn't have heat, we used to use the stove, and we knew it wasn't safe. We used to put the pot of water in the oven, and that's how we used to keep warm. Y'all remember? Because we had no way else to stay warm. We had to do what we had to do because we are a people of survival. And so I'm asking all of you, Nan has been instrumental on the ground, helping us every single day from Sunday. We've made sure that families are given hotel accommodations. Today, the first disbursement of $2,200 has been given to every family member starting at 10 o'clock this morning. And we're not going to stop. There are some out there that don't think we're doing anything, but I'm here to tell you we are working because we are about getting work done. I will not allow anyone to discredit the work that we've done on the ground because some folk haven't been there and they just show up because the cameras are there. But if you know like I know, family, when the cameras leave, that's when the work begins. And so we have a lot of work to do. From in the Bronx to the village of Harlem, a 19-year-old shot at her place of employment, a 19-year-old worker at Burger King. Undescribable pain for these families. Gun violence, poverty, so many things that we deal with every day. But I'm reminding all of you to stay focused, stay encouraged, and don't give up. God is using us in a mighty way for such a time as this. And we have work to do to fulfill the dream of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on his birthday. A dream yet fulfilled. It is up to all of us to live out that dream, standing on his shoulders for his labor and his life and his legacy and the seeds that he has planted. I am one of those seeds. You are one of those seeds. But what are we going to do about it? What is the difference that we are going to make for our babies so that they can look at us and see themselves and realize that they are children of God, destined for success, called to be success stories and not statistics. So if you know like I know, God is not finished yet. Hold on, church. Hold on to his unchanging hand. We need you like never before. And I know that while I may be the borough president of the Bronx, I have a lot of love here in the village of Harlem because we share so much in common. A bridge will not divide our commitment. A block will not block our blessings. We are in this together, united, in solidarity, standing together on one accord. I am thankful for everyone, every New Yorker, every Bronxite, everyone that has come forth with your love. We are receiving donations galore, and we are excited about that. But we know at the end of the day, these families need so much more. And so I ask all of you, you know, prayer changes people and situations. And so we're going to pray and pray and pray that God brings healing and comfort and strength in the days and the weeks ahead. On tomorrow, on Sunday, we will bury 15 neighbors within 4 families. One family, mom, dad, and all 3 children perished. I am asking all of you to pray. These families need our help, and I want to remind them that they are not alone. There are many ways that you can continue to help. Our social media, we're sending out emails, but the most important is the financial contributions, because that will help families rebuild and purchase necessary items that they need for themselves and their families. But again, we will work. We've announced the task force on fire safety, federal, state, and city legislators working together, because we are not going to rest until we get the job done. The one point I want to emphasize as we close is, while we've recognized the issues in this particular building of Twin Parks, I know that there are many New York families that live every day with no heat and no hot water and faulty space heaters and fire alarms that don't work. And so we can't take care of just one building. We have to take care of all of these buildings and prevent the next tragedy from happening. God bless you. Thank you so much, House of Justice. May God bless you and keep you, and we look forward to the fight and the work ahead. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson, give her a hand. Said that we are going to follow her directions and her instructions, and we are going to pray for those families that have lost and suffered, and those that will be funeralizing on tomorrow. And I thought Borough President was too young to know about them heating up the house with the stove and pot on water on the stove. I grew up like that in Brownsville, and I didn't know what central heating was until I was a teenager and met Michael Hardy and all of the bourgeoisie. We thought that heating was putting a little pot on the stove, and that's what we thought central heating was. But she is right about that. And she's right. One of the things, and I was listening to Dawn Jones giving a report from our Political Action Committee, one of the things that our committees need to work on is, as she said, dealing with the legislation to deal with things like why people have space heaters, how we regulate landlords and what they're getting away with. These are not issues that get you on Eyewitness News, but these are issues that we need to deal with. A lot of us only like the issues that you get high profile. That's one of the reasons why we started NAN 30 years ago. We wanted an organization. Not, you got some activists just want to run out there when there's an issue, then you don't hear from them no more. And then you got your Facebook activists. But then you need those of us that go get down and do the real nitty-gritty work. And one of the things that comes out of this fire is we need to deal with the question of heating and housing for our people, affordable all over this city and all over the country. So I'm grateful she said that. Let me also say that I neglected to say when I announced about Monday, every year, our annual holiday, King Holiday, we do a breakfast in Washington. And because of the COVID numbers there, we're doing it viral this year. And it will start at 8 a.m. on nationalactionnetwork.net and our Facebook page. You can watch it. Many of the government officials, as well as Martin Luther King III and his family, and I will be speaking from the Washington breakfast of National Action Network, but it will not be in person, it will be virtual, but we will be doing our messages. Then the 1:30 here that I said that all of our officials speak at every year, our policy forum, we will also have vaccine trucks and tents on the outside where you can get your booster shots and tested. So not only are we going to be COVID conscious here, you can get tested and you can get your shots right on the site. They'll be right in front of the House of Justice. So anybody that come in and want to hug me for Happy King Day, I'm going to take you right to the truck and have you tested before you hug me, and then you can hug me. But if you put your arms up, I'm going to grab your arms and walk you right to the truck in front of the House of Justice. Let me say also today and tomorrow, as most of you know, but for you watching around the country, I'm on my television show, Politics Nation, without Sharpton at 5 today and tomorrow. Among my guests this weekend will be the only grandchild of Dr. Martin Luther King. Yolanda Renee King is going to be on, and I'm going to talk to her about her grandfather having a federal holiday. We're also going to deal with the question of where we go with the Voting Rights Act. Many of our senators and Congress people will be on. Watch at 5 o'clock today and tomorrow. Different shows, live shows on MSNBC. Let me also make it very clear that I was in Atlanta on Tuesday for the president's speech. And we had been, for months, saying to the president, we needed him to come out and deal with this voting rights issue. Many of us felt that the Voting Rights Act should have been the first thing they fought for before the infrastructure. And Mark Morial of the Urban League and Derek Johnson of the NAACP and Sherlyn Eiffel of Legal Defense Fund and myself had appealed to him to go with that first. If you remember, we had a meeting at the White House, and we got in the meeting with he and Vice President Harris and said to them, you have not spoke up in a strong way about voting rights. That was on a Thursday. That Saturday, we got a call that he was going to make a speech that Tuesday in Philadelphia. And he did, at one of the historic halls in Philadelphia. I went representing the groups. I sat in the front with Joe Biden's sister. Made one of the best speeches I heard a president make on voting rights. After he came down, he walked over to the front row and he said, what do you think, Reverend Al? I said, you made a great speech. I remember when I was a kid, before I was even 10 years old, Lyndon Johnson made a speech. My mother made me watch on black and white television. And that was, you know, hard to know about that. That's when we used to put the little cellophane there to make it look like it was color TV, but it was really black and white. They had real black and white over at the bourgeois house. But anyway, I deviated. And, you know I'm picking at Hardy. Hardy grew up on Kosciuszko Street. He was not bourgeois. Just for the record, I don't want folks to be getting the wrong idea about Hardy. But I remember Lyndon Johnson said that night in the speech, President Gibson, that we shall overcome. And it moved my mother so, who came from Alabama, because she said she never thought she'd live to hear a president say we shall overcome. Well, Biden's speech in Philly that day, I told him it came close to that. I said, but you're missing one word. He said, what's that? I said, filibuster. He said, Reverend Al, you gonna stay on me about that. I said, you gotta do your job, Mr. President, I gotta do mine. Well, this week, we finally got him to come out and deal with filibuster. And I was coming back from California, and they said the White House called and invited you to come and be part of those that would sit and hear the president. So I flew down, and I thought it was very providential that they chose that he and Vice President Harris would speak there in the yard between two HBCU schools. And we sat there, and because it had rained earlier, they put chairs out for what they call us the VIPs, and then the students were around. And Morehouse College is where Dr. King went to school. And we sat there, and as this president, who would not earlier deal with filibuster, not only dealt with filibuster, but made the message that we needed to be heard when he said that you have got to decide, members of the Senate, whose side are you on? Are you on Dr. King's side or George Wallace's side? Are you on John Lewis's side or Bull Connor's side? Are you on Abe Lincoln's side or Jefferson Davis' side? Something we never heard the president go that far. And I told him, I went and met with him and the vice president after the speech, And I told him, in fact, we got a picture we're going to put up here that we took. And I told him, I said, now, you're going to get attacked for that, but you're right. Because the history of this country and the history in our community is based on which side of the American divide you're on. The significance of King Day is to deal with how we deal with the racial divide in this country. Martin Luther King is not in history and not given a holiday because he was some poetic dreamer. His dream was about dealing with the racial divide in this country. If you allow them that commercialize Dr. King Day have their way, they will take the sting out of the message of Dr. King. And Reverend Starkey, it is our duty, our obligation. When we started National Action Network, I was youth director of Dr. King's chapter in New York when I was 13, the year he got killed. And we put in the incorporation papers that National Action Network was based on the principles of Dr. Martin Luther King. That's the picture right there, Mrs. King taking me to his grave. And Martin III has been with us from the beginning. But let me say this, Wyatt T. Walker, Reverend Wyatt T. Walker, who was the first chairman of the board of this organization, was Dr. King's executive director. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was his economic director, head of Operation Breadbasket, mentored me, was the one that named this the House of Justice. So we're all King folk in here. They can have a lot of stuff going around about King, but we are the King folk in New York. And let me tell you something. It was not popular when I was 13 to be with Martin Luther King in New York. Lem Peterkin is here, who's been one of our photographers down through the years. Nobody is more historic than Lem Peterkin. And he made the year two within Hardy's age. I remember when I was a little boy, Lem had a little Instamatic camera then. But anyway, Lem will tell you that they would say we don't want that nonviolence mess up here. Hazel Dukes will tell you when we started marching in Howard Beach and other places, they did not want that. I'm talking about black folks. Calling us names. What y'all out there begging and marching and all, we need to do this or that or the other. None of which they was going to do, by the way. They just taking shots. And don't forget, I want y'all to get this down. A lot of our young folks in Huddle and other things need to understand this. Martin Luther King was campaigning to do the Poor People's Campaign in Washington. While he was getting a lot of support, he had been turned on by the black nationalists and the black civil rights crowd, and many of the ministers. What are you talking about, Sharpton? The black nationalists were saying he wasn't nationalist enough. And the civil rights folks was mad because he had come out against Lyndon Johnson's war in Vietnam. And the leaders of the main civil rights organizations held a press conference, including Ralph Bunche, and denounced Dr. King, saying he was hurting the civil rights movement. In the middle of that, Reverend James Lawson in Memphis, Tennessee, called Dr. King and said that we are having a garbage worker strike that fit into your Poor People's Campaign. 2 garbage workers were killed because there was nowhere for them to stay warm. And they sat in the back of the garbage truck misfunctioned and swallowed them up and killed them. And that we are striking for them to have better working conditions for garbage workers. If you would come through Memphis and have a rally, support the garbage workers, the garbage strikers, we can probably get a lot of them to also be part of going to Washington with you for the Poor People's Campaign. It was because of that Dr. King went to Memphis to help the garbage strikers. He went and flew in. He and Dr. Abernathy in one aid and led the march. Watch this now. At the end of the march, some of the militants got in the march and started rioting. Some of them that be woofing now was woofing then. They started a riot. And they had to rush Dr. King off the line. Somebody got killed because the march turned into a riot. The New York Times did an editorial saying the day of Martin Luther King is over. He can't even lead a nonviolent march. He called a meeting at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta and pulled his national staff in from all over the country. And he's got on all of them saying, y'all let me down. I shouldn't have been down there by myself. We got to go back to Memphis. Some of the staff argued with Dr. King, just let it go. You can't do nothing with these young militants. Let's just keep focused on Washington. He said, no, we got to go back and prove that nonviolence is not dead. And he went back to Memphis to reorganize the march. As they were rallying for the march, they had a rally at Mason Temple Church of God in Christ. It was raining, pouring down rain that night. Dr. King had a little cold and a sore throat. He told Dr. Abernathy and Jesse Jackson, y'all go over there and do the rally and get everybody, probably won't be a big crowd with this storm. He said, and let everybody know that we are fighting this in court to make sure we can have the march, because they had taken out an order not to have the march. They was in federal court to have a march. He said, I'll be at the hotel, staying at the Black Hotel, Lorraine Motel. When they got to Mason Temple, Dr. Abernathy went to the payphone, wasn't no cell phones in '68, and called the Lorraine Motel and said, Dr. King, this place is packed. There's over 2,000 people here. They didn't come to see me. You need to come over and speak and talk to the people. He got in a car and went to Mason Temple and made the last speech of his life. Next morning, he got up leaning over the rail talking to Ben Branch and Jesse Jackson, and a man killed him. He went back to Memphis because the militants disrupted his march. That's why he went back there. That's why I keep telling y'all, we can disagree without being hostile. Because you end up setting up both of us. We can have different tactics without disrupting each other. And we don't tell the story to our children so they don't understand that they use the division of those so-called militants and the moderates with Dr. King to get their gunmen in to kill Martin Luther King. They asked Dr. King about civil rights leaders that came out against him on Vietnam. He refused to answer them because he said, I'm not going to play into the division. But I got to do what's right. And I cannot tell my folks to be nonviolent in America, but to go to Vietnam and be violent against people that were against us. And he stood with Muhammad Ali, who refused to go to the war. They won't tell you that part of the King story. But if you're going to celebrate King Day, you need to know what Dr. King was all about. I come out that movement when it got north. I come out mentored by Rev. William Jones and Wyatt Walker and Jesse Jackson, who were with Dr. King. Some of y'all heard one record, I Have a Dream, and think y'all King experts. And let me tell you something. If you look at American history, I was reading the 1619 Project. A lot of y'all defending it and haven't read it. If you go through the whole history of how we developed in this country, you know, the Declaration of Independence wasn't until 1776. And then they did the Constitution in 1787. We were here since 1619. Which means even before there was a formal country, we were enslaved. And we went from being property and slaves. I got to this chapter, Hazel Dukes, that really never hit me like this before. They said that even the women, black women who were enslaved, couldn't charge rape because they were property.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And you had the right to do whatever you wanted with your property.
That's right.
So if the master decided to use your body, that was his prerogative.
Teach, Reverend, teach.
And the excuse, watch this, that he would give his wife when he impregnated the black women slaves was at least I'm making more slaves that are we're building our workforce. And saw us as commodities that they can sell and make money off of. So they would use their deviant rapist behavior to also make more servants for them. It was that Dr. King and them had to fight. If you know where we come from, being product, being owned by those that would sell us on bars and stand us up and in where you would call it where Wall Street was. They would put us where you'd be standing up on platforms. And they'd look and see who looked the healthiest. Oh, let me buy him because look like he's healthy and he can pick a lot of cotton. He could use a lot of tobacco. Let me buy her. She looked like she could breed me a lot of slaves. That's how we were brought here. And to go from that into fighting to be free from slavery, joining the Union Army under duress and beating the Confederates, then fighting for the right to vote. They never wanted us to vote because they felt that voting means you were a full human being and a citizen. If you understand that perspective, then you understand the gravity of this voting rights bill today. Then you understand the gravity of what Martin Luther King stood for. You get all the way into the 20th century. Dr. King was born in 1929. When he was born, blacks couldn't sit in the front of a bus in Atlanta where he was born. Blacks couldn't go to school with whites. Blacks couldn't use a water fountain that whites did. You couldn't even go to the toilet whites went in. They were just 2 generations out of being property. And then they were living under segregation. Could not vote without impediments. So for Dr. King to come out of that and then lead a movement to break that down, you got to understand what they're facing and compare that to what they fought. So when you grow up with all of these rights, the dream of Dr. King don't mean a lot to you. But if you had to sit in the back of the bus, if you had to drink from a colored water fountain, if you had to go to the worst schools, and somebody told you they had a dream of breaking out of that, that dream would mean something to you. Well, I'm too militant for that. No, you're too moronic for that. Because you don't respect the history of your people that broke down walls that you didn't face. You got to know where we come from. You got to know what was done to us. Yet we rose anyhow. And how did Dr. King do it? He didn't do it burning down cities. He built a movement. and it was clothed and bathed in the black church. That's why he called it the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. That's why National Action Network said we're black church-based. We'll work with anybody. But we black church-based because it's only with faith in a higher power that'll make you fight the powers of this world. What could make Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and others? I write about it in this new book, Righteous Troublemakers. Folks, names you never heard. What made somebody like Amelia Boykin fight in Selma, Alabama? Let Dr. King stay in a house because of segregation. They couldn't stay in a hotel. What made them do that? They believed in a God that if they fought, he would fight their battles. And that's why Martin Luther King is in history. Why did they go to Washington August 28, 1963? And we go back every year. This organization's been the lead organization on commemorating that. Why did they go, Lem Peterkin, the Lincoln Memorial? They went August 28, 1963, because in 1863, Abe Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And in the proclamation, he promised that we would be given the right to vote. We would be free from slavery. We would be free from being denied our rights. So 100 years later to the year, when Martin Luther King and A. Philip Randolph and Roy Wilkins of the NAACP and Whitney Young of the Urban League and all called that march, they didn't go to the Washington Monument. They didn't go to the Jefferson Memorial. They went to the Lincoln Memorial. Why did they go to Lincoln Memorial? Because Lincoln was the one that made the promise. And if you read Dr. King's speech, he said, you promised that we would be free. And I come to tell you that you've given the Negro a check that has bounced in the bank of justice. You promised, but your check has bounced. And I come to the one that made the promise. That's why we go to Lincoln Memorial. A lot of y'all go, don't know why Lincoln Memorial. And we still trying to collect that check. And that's why on Dr. King holiday, it ain't about a sale at the mall. It's about collecting on that bad check. It's not about you got a long weekend. It's about you still got to fulfill that promise with the voting rights bill today. It's not about, well, are you going to go and have one day that you can see your friends that you haven't seen since New Year's Day. No, it's dealing with those that went from objecting to voting rights in 65 to dealing with Mansion and Cinema in 22. If you go celebrate Dr. King, then celebrate Dr. King by doing some Dr. King kind of work. Don't make a mockery out of Dr. King. I go to Washington once or twice a month, our office down there, meetings down there. And Vanessa Gibson, I always marvel at how as the plane circles to come and land in the national airport named after Ronald Reagan, how you can look at the Potomac, and they have on the Potomac River on the banks, Jefferson Memorial and the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. And the only one that got a monument and a statue that didn't hold an office, never was elected to nothing, was a black preacher from Atlanta, Georgia, named Martin Luther King. I was honored. I spoke at the groundbreaking for that monument and spoke the day the monument was unveiled. And I thought about Hazel that day as I walked with Martin III and the family to take our seats, and all of us spoke, and the keynote speaker was Barack Obama, who was the President of the United States.
Yeah.
And I thought about how Dr. King
Yeah.
had stood up that day in '63 and said he had a dream.
Yeah.
And then the night before he died, he said he'd been to the mountaintop. And he looked over
Yes, sir.
and he saw the promised land.
Yeah.
And I believe that he saw the day
Uh-huh.
that if we kept fighting that there'd be a black president.
Yeah.
He saw a day if we kept fighting we'd have a black woman as the Bronx Borough President. He didn't look over and see us running around break dancing and calling our women bees and calling ourselves niggas. That was not what Dr. King died for. He died to open doors for us, and we got to keep fighting to keep them doors open. We are not where we are out of luck. We're here out of sacrifice. We're here out of bloodshed. We're here out of those that paid the price. We're here out of dreamers that made the dream come true. Happy birthday, Dr. King. We're going to keep the dream alive. Happy birthday, Dr. King. We won't let them turn us back. Happy birthday, Dr. King. His last request, when he looked over that rail at his room at the Lorraine Motel,
Yes, sir.
was he told Ben Branch,
Uh-huh.
I want you to play at the rally tonight. My favorite song,
Yeah.
Precious Lord,
Yes, sir.
take my hand.
Yeah.
Lead me on. Let me stand. I'm tired.
Yes, sir.
I'm weak and I'm worn.
Yeah.
But through the storm
Uh-huh. And through the night.
and
Yes,
through the
sir.
night,
Yeah.
guide my feet
Yes, sir.
to the light. That was the last thing Dr. King said before he shot him. Take my hand,
Yes, sir.
precious Lord, and lead me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Precious Lord,
Show up.
take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I'm weak, and I'm born through the storm and through the night. Lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home with my way grown thin. Precious Lord, linger here with my life is let's not fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. We want justice. We want freedom. Everybody's singing. I'm open the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today in the auditorium that is not a member of National Action Network. Couldn't be a better day to join than Dr. King's actual birthday. That you come and sign up. You that are listening in Radio Land, you can go online or call the toll-free number and join on the phone. Call us at 1-877-626-4651. People are at the phone now, 1-877-626-4651, or go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. But if you're here and not a member, never join, come down to me right now and become a member of the National Action Network. Come on, everybody's singing. Come on, everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing for Dr. King, y'all. Sing for Dr. King, y'all. Everybody's singing. One last time, y'all. One last time, y'all. Everybody's singing. Yeah. All right. All right. I figured everybody here today was members. As cold as it is, you come out, you got to be a member.
Amen.
I come out this morning, as soon as I got outside, Hazel, that hawk said, "Good morning, Reverend." That coat and hat don't mean nothing to me.
We got you. Praise God.
I am the hawk. I'm going to show you what I do with a coat and hat. I'm going to blow right up in there. I'm going to see how much you can handle.
Amen.
So I work out every morning, but I jog to the car today. All right, we're going to raise our offering.
Amen.
Sister Carmela dances for us every week. Give her a hand. She's one of the original Soul Train dancers. Many of y'all used to watch Soul Train. Don Cornelius and Soul Train. She was one of the Soul Train dancers.
All right.
Hardy was watching American Bandstand with the rest of them. Y'all know I like to pick on Hardy. You know, every Johnny Carson needs an Ed McMahon. You got to have somebody to play off. All right. Let's take our offering, moving quickly. Again, don't forget that on Monday, we're going to start at 1:30, which means if you want to make sure you get in and have your temperature and get one of the seats, you need to be here an hour and a half before 1:30. And we're going to have testing outside.
That's right.
We have a tent out there to do COVID testing.
Amen.
And we're going to have where you can get your shots if you haven't got a shot. So you ain't got no excuse on Monday. And if you want to get my book, you can get one at the counter today. I'll sign it to you.
Amen.
And where's Derek Perkison? Derek is here somewhere, but Katrina and those at the counter in the back will be setting up for our books. All right, let's raise our offering. I need about 10 people that can give $100 or more to come quickly. Hazel Dukes is giving $200. Winston Gilchrist, $100. Guardians, $100. Brother Carswell, $100. Brother Wayne, $100. Come on, I need about 2 more hundred. Hazel Dukes gave 2, she said for one, she gave for one of y'all, so I only need 2 more. Come on. You that want to get a book, some of y'all holding up to buy a book. If you don't, I think the books we selling cheaper here is $20. If you don't have 20, see Derek and he'll lend you 20. I know how much you make, he got plenty of money. Welcome committee, $100. All right, I got there 50 now, 50, 50, 50. Come on, 50. Brother David, $50. He got on his blue workout suit with the hood today. Sharp. Brother Anthony Dawson, $50. Minister Carolyn's on her way. $50. 20s.